John, you guys are one game under hockey 500. Is that something you even look at, or some of the players said that they're aware of that and that's like their first step?
No, I'm just getting ready for tomorrow's game.
John, you had an extended message at the end of practice for the team. What's the mindset for your team going? And are you willing to disclose that at all? No.
John, with regards to the lineup, there are some coaches who look at it as the team's playing well, I don't want to make any changes. Is that your viewpoint when a team is kind of rolling like you guys are, that you don't want to move guys in and out, you don't want to change up the lines, or is that not your philosophy?
Well, with the lines, I just like the way the lines are playing, and so I'm not going to change those. I get concerned about Bronner. I don't think it's really good for him to sit out a whole bunch. I've tried to bounce him in and out of there, but it's hard sometimes, and I just feel comfortable where they're at as a team. With Kiefer, right now he's not taking anybody out of the lineup as far as an extra forward. Bronner's a different story in the back end. I think I can move him in and out of there, but right now I'm just going to leave it alone. So what's the reason? It's just my feeling. It's where the team's at. I think they have found an area where they feel comfortable with one another. I'm just going to stay with it.
After the last game, you talked about Owen's game and how it's not just the goal scoring. What are your points of emphasis for him and at his peak? What do you
Power.
Vision?
Power. Everything about his game. I want him to display that aspect as a power forward. Bringing pucks to the net, which he's done. Protecting pucks, which he's done. It's not so much a power thing, but not being afraid to make a play. He's doing that. And now power / consistent. As you're dealing with a young guy, I think we have to be careful how we go about it, because you want everything right now. But the consistency is something I'm watching. And consistency to me is not when you play really good. You just can't fall off the cliff. You may not be as good as you were the other game, but you can't fall off the cliff. That's important for Tip.
Before the last game, the Caps were saying they were keeping an eye on TK's line. How important is it to have multiple lines you can rely on, so it's not just like one line carry?
Yeah, I think we've got, and I think the minutes are kind of showing it. I think we're kind of going with our lines, and matches, momentums of games change things. Power play minutes change things, but I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable with the lines, and it goes to Charlie's question. I just not just all offense, but just the way they're playing away from the puck too. So, which line's which? I don't know. You guys can number them for me. I just watch the game and decide who I'm going to play against who.
The last two games you guys played against two very good power play teams. You just talked about being able to roll your lines, not just in terms of the score of the game, but in terms of keeping guys in the flow of play, being able to roll your lines. How important is it that you stayed out of the box?
Yeah, remember, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we were taking 4 or 5 penalties a game, and we had no continuity. Guys were iced on the bench. It's tomorrow. It's the same team tomorrow night. It's a really dangerous power play. It's really important that we do. It's a huge kill on Tony's penalty. The retaliatory penalty, key time of the game, was not a smart penalty at all. Found a way to get it done. We have to stay out of the box, and especially on this team and on this road trip, these two teams, we're in trouble if we don't.
JVR said that he and Hayes and Lawton welcome the role of almost being like a player coach on the bench, that the communication in game is important. In other words, do you look at that and say that's a positive thing, that they're helping out?
I think players listen to players more than they do coaches. I think sometimes they're forced to listen to a coach. They feel like they're being forced to listen to a coach. I get it, because they have to listen to us all the time. I think when a player, a teammate talks to you, I watched JVR on the bench the other night. grabbed both his line mates. I'm not going to tell you what he said to him, but it was the proper thing to say. And that's when you're taking steps in the right direction in your locker room. To be a team that's going to compete and maybe be successful in playoffs, that room has to self-sustain. It can't be us being in there all the time. So that it's really important as we keep growing here.
John, kind of building off that, and this goes back to something you mentioned after the last game about the iPad thing.
Mhm.
That a few weeks ago you talked about with JVR, that one thing you liked about him being on a line with two younger guys is that, when they were kind of looking at the iPad on the bench, that he was able to sort of point out things
Yeah.
that they might have missed. How do you balance, like, the benefits of that with
Yeah.
not wanting them to get too sucked in?
Yeah. It's a fine line. We're not going to have them. We have a TV we can't take out because it's built right into the rink, right by my feet on each bench. So if we or someone really needs something, we'll have an ability to do that. But that's going to be a tough sell. Rocky and Willie and Chauzy use it sometimes, but I think we need to get into if we want to keep on growing here, is just get ready for your next shift. We're going to point it out. Sometimes we don't have to see it, and I think it helps us because you have the iPad. You're pointing out everything during a game. It's almost like you think you have to because you just saw it. And we overcoach. I think we get in the way sometimes and we're clouding their head in what just happened instead of let's try to take care of business in the next shift. So, technology, everybody thinks technology is great. Sometimes it is. There's some important stuff to it. Sometimes it isn't, and I think this is a time that it isn't.
So I guess with regards to that, I mean, how things are going to be perceived. We've talked about this, you have that reputation of kind of being the old school guy.
I don't give a flying shit how I'm perceived. I really don't, because it is it's my job to coach the team. And if I'm in the business to try to make everybody happy and be perceived as whatever you want to perceive, I don't know. That's a tough way to live. I really don't pay too much attention to it. And I'm saying that respectfully. You have a right to make a judgment. Everybody does. But how much I pay attention to it is very little. And because I'm kind of locked in what I think is best for the team, and I have to make those calls. Now, if my boss feels I'm not making the right calls, that's when you lose your job. But that's I owe my whole process of thinking to the players, and I think this is the right thing for our group.
With Travis Konechny, obviously scores goals, puts up points, but he is not shy to be right in the middle of things, get engaged in the game. Do you
Yeah.
feel like that rubs off on his teammates?
Yeah, he's contagious. He has to. You have to. You have to draw off of him by the way he plays, and it's just nonstop. And I respect him for it because he just carries himself the right way. And again, like I said the other night, and I've said it all the time we talk about TK, because he makes a ton of mistakes, but it's for the right reason. He's just trying to make a difference, and it's a huge part of today's athlete versus back in the day when everybody was trying to not make mistakes, and their mistakes were being coached the hell out of them during games by coaches. Let it go, and TK lets it go, and more often than none, and of course of lately, it's worked out pretty well for him and our team.
When you coached against him, did you ever think, like, man, this guy just does not stop? Like,
You know what? You just don't. I don't focus on them that much. I know TK was a really good player. I've always likened him to a Cam when I've had Cam for 6 years. But not. He's engaged, and I think some of our young guys can learn off of that. Some of our old guys can learn off of that. How things can really push you away if you stay engaged. And he's engaged when things are going wrong too. He still stays with it. He doesn't mope. He keeps it at the same level as far as energy.
John, not to belabor the iPad ban, but just to clarify, if the players want to look at it between periods, Are they allowed to, or is that?
There's not going to be much discussion about that as far as them coming to me and asking. I don't think they're going to be coming to me to ask for it.
JVR said that when he was with other teams, that they looked at it between periods. He said, I'm not sure if we can here or not.
Yeah, well, no one's asked me yet, so
So they can or can't? I'm just.
there's not going to be there won't be any questions of that. There's sometimes players come back into the into where AP is and Vinny, where the video, it's just right down the hall. I know Rock has brought a couple players, and some players have come in there to see it.
They can do
Oh,
that.
God, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a TV there, but we're not passing around an iPad in the locker room. And I'm not trying to be as you said, I'm not trying to be an idiot here. We have a major problem understanding flows of game. That is the biggest reason for it. Understanding the flow of the game, momentum swings. I think it's so important to learn that as a young team. If we are fortunate enough to play in big games, they're magnified even more, momentum swings. So I just want them, I don't want them overthinking. I don't want them thinking about that when you're up in another maybe minute and a half, and maybe I might throw you out the next shift. So that's all. I'm not trying to make a big deal out of this myself. I just think this is the proper thing to do with our team.